Welcome back to the Shuffle Squad. Zach Lesage here. Today I'm going to be covering over the top 10 best meta Pokemon TCG decks in the format as we approach the Perth Regional Championships and the Bogota Special Event Championships. That being said, smash that like button. Every like counts. And of course, let us know in the comments what you think your best guesses are for the top 10. I do get back to every single comment, so I'll let you know if you're right, if you're wrong. Even just saying hi, I'm first, anything else like that really does help boost the YouTube algorithm. We need all the help we possibly can get as we approach 25,000 subscribers. That being said, lists are going to be available in the pinned comment in the comment section. Those are copy and pastable right into PTCG Live. And if you need any of the cards for these decks, check out our sponsors in the description, such as Kayfabe Cards for your physical card needs, PTCGO Store for your online card needs, and Ultimate Guard for all your sleeves and deck boxes. That being said, let's jump into our number 10 pick. Let's get it. Kicking off our list, we are starting with Archaludon EX. I've been a huge fan of this bridge Pokemon ever since I found out Duraludon evolved because I used to play Arctur back in the day. Obviously, there's no other resemblance beyond they're the same Pokemon line because the attacks are totally different and the dex functions differently. Now, this is a take on Ethan Wild's deck. I believe they made top 64 at the recent Stuttgart Regional Championships. And the goal of this deck is to basically pitch a couple metal energies and then using Assemble Alloy ability to power up either Archaludon or your other Pokemon like Dialga VSTAR. Now you can go 220, 220, that's enough to knock out some Drago Vs, knock out some pretty much whatever, but the Starmie can allow you to ping for some extra damage, whatever that is necessary. Being able to transform something on your bench into a Duraludon or into a Dialga V and then really pop off as necessary gives you some really cool moments to increase damage with Starmie, do some extra turns with Dialga V-Star, or pop an Archaludon with that 300 HP for a stage 1 Pokemon out of absolutely anywhere. I like using unique A-Specs, so I think Scoop Up Cyclone's really cool in this deck. We have seen other versions that play Scramble Switch, and overall I think this deck has some pretty cool matchups in our current metagame. I'll have to see how it continuously plays out. It was a tough choice between this deck and deck number 11, which is not going to be featured anywhere else on this list, Turbo Roaring Moon. So our metagame has really changed up with a lot of the hyper aggressive decks going down this week as we've entered in a few new decks into the metagame. Now that being said, Archaludon EX I think is pretty close to a top 10 deck. It might fall out of the top 10 going forward, but we'll have to see how the metagame shifts at Perth and Bogota this weekend. Again, I do want to let everyone know that we do have those lists available in the pinned comment, so as you play along and watch this video, you can copy and paste those lists right into PTCG Live, and our friends over at Kayfabe Cards can get you all those physical cards if you're missing anything from your collection. Cards like those Staryu and those Starmie might be cards you might have missed along the way. They probably have a bunch in stock. Same thing if you want to craft any of those cards at ptcgostore.com. You can plug in code TSS5 or TSS10, whatever it is in the description. Check it out. I always forget which one it is, and you can get a discount on some code cards to craft anything you want in game. Archaludon EX is surprising, so if you haven't put your best guesses for the top 10 decks in the list or in the comments below, put all those comments there, and let's see what we got going on at number 9. Another new entry for this deck this week is going to be Dragapult EX with Iron Thorns. Now, we did see this deck make top 8 at the recent Stuttgart Regional Championships, where we saw Mads take this deck to a deep run, kind of giving yourself an opportunity to wall with Iron Thorns EX, a card that we saw win the World Championships, or use Dragapult EX. So it's kind of like lots of rule box abilities, Iron Thorns, slow them down, get set up on the bench using Dracloak as a draw engine, then go Dragapult because it's big, chonk HP, Phantom Dive, spread that damage. The cool tech here is using that Slime Mold Colony Toedscruel, which can stop Dragapult, not Dragapult, geez, I'm getting all my dragon Pokemon mixed up, Regidrago V-Star from using its Legacy Star ability and getting those cards back. Superior Energy Retrieval, Night Stretcher. There's a lot of really cool things that you're stopping with Toedscruel as long as I understand that ability as I'm speaking out loud. Trust me, when I'm playing, I know what I'm doing with the abilities. Sometimes when it comes to speaking, I'm like, Am I saying the right words? That being said, I think this is a really cool deck that you could power up your Pokemon with Crispin. It's a cool combination of cards, and we have seen this deck kind of creeping in the shadows, but not really getting this far in tournaments. It's a deck that I've fully built up in real life, and I think it probably will catch on a little bit more. Also using that new Precious Trolley. I do want to say Precious Trolley stonks are going up. A lot of decks are featuring that card now. So if you haven't picked up your Precious Trolley, be sure to check it out. That being said, we have this deck at number 9 this week. Probably going to stay in the top 10 in my opinion, but we'll have to see how things go. That being said, let's see what we have going on at our number 8 pick. Chilling at number 8, we have Snorlax blocking the way of your opponent's Pokemon. I believe we have Cal Connor's list from the recent Sacramento Regional Championships. I largely believe he is the best Snorlax player in the game, typically just plays it at tournaments, does a lot of really cool things with the deck. That being said, you're trying to stop Pokemon with retreats, and when you have Pokemon like Miraidon that don't play any switch cards, they don't have any way to get in and out of the active spot, you Snorlax, you bring up a Pokemon that can attack, and it's over for your opponents. Or you put a Mimikyu in play, they only have their Magneton that can attack it, or maybe Mew EX, but as soon as you slap on a Mist Energy, they can't do anything. So this deck really can kind of handle some of those decks in the metagame quite well. I think it's decently positioned. However, there are quite a few decks that might just have answers to this deck. We see Regidrago playing Temple of Sinnoh, we see Alolan Executor and those kinds of decks. We see decks that Roaring Moon EX being played. There's a lot of decks that can just get around Snorlax. There's Petrant EX. So this deck does have its counters, but if you do just happen to play the wrong deck against a Mimikyu, a Cornerstone Ogerpon, or you get block trapped, it could just be over there. So pretty cool opportunity to see this deck at number 8. And if you're playing against Snorlax and you have nothing to do during your turns, check out Advanced GG. They have some delicious beverages, supplements, stuff. I've been really liking their Guava Berry Energy Drink Powder supplement, and I've been drinking that throughout making this video. So if you're of age and you're looking for something else like that, be sure to check it out. Otherwise, they make some really cool shakers just for you to hold water in. That being said, let's see what we have going on at our number 7. At number 7, we have Miraidon EX. Miraidon just won the Sacramento Regional Championships, and it's already down at number 7. Well, you saw decks like Snorlax, where Snorlax can just put out a single Mimikyu or a Blocklax, and it's over. It just doesn't work anymore. People are playing some fighting type techs in their deck. People are playing cards that can just kind of get around Miraidon EX. However, when this deck really sets up, you're just going turn 1, turn 2 attack with Photon Blast. You're getting that big board setup using Pikachu EX to use Area 0 as an Area 0 activator. And I've seen some really cool ways to play this deck when it comes down to using Secret Box and grabbing an Arven and grabbing a Nest Ball and making that bench huge, and then using Electric Generator from properly thinning your deck. It's honestly one of those decks where if you play this deck properly, it's absolutely magical. I think it's well positioned when it's well positioned. Right now, obviously not as well positioned as it was before, but that doesn't necessarily mean that things can't change. I think it's worthwhile to have all these cards. I have made a change to landing Caitlur's list. I have added in Blood Moon Ursaluna EX as an additional attacker late game when you might be running a little bit low on energies. Whether or not that's a play for you or not, it's been working incredibly well for me, and it's absolutely exciting. If you're looking for some awesome sleeves or a deck box to kind of store your Miraidon deck in, be sure to check out our description for some Ultimate Guard products. I use their deck boxes, I use their sleeves. I promise I'm not just going to shamelessly plug everything, every single deck, but you want to know what? We do have our sponsors that keep our channel alive, and if you are a gamer like me, I wouldn't just like needlessly kind of shill out whatever. I use Ultimate Guard through and through. You can see I have all of their products back there. I use all of their everything. Absolutely a fantastic place if you're looking for it. Nowhere is perfect. Sometimes you like, I think it's one of those things where I like their sleeves. They work for me. Maybe they'll work for you. Give them a try if you're looking to try to change up brands. About to enter into number 6. We're almost at the halfway point, pretty much at the halfway point. Which decks are we going to feature? We'll have to find out. Let's jump into it. At number 6, we have Terapagos. Now, Terapagos is my boy. It's really one of those decks that I've played. I've played in 2 major events this season, the Lima Special Events. and the Latin American International Championships. And I played Terapagos EX for both. I've been able to acquire 240 championship points from those tournaments alone, and I've won a League Cup with Terapagos. So out of the 3 events I've played, 290 points. Absolutely love this deck. Right now I have a modified take on the deck. It's very similar to Henry Brand's list that they played at the Sacramento Regional Championships. And I decided to go from the 2 Dusknoir, I went 2/02 Dusknoir to the 1 Dusclops, giving myself an opportunity to pop some other Pokemon. We see that Magnemite coming up in that Miraidon list, so we could pop that, just knock that out. We have Terapagos that can just go with that big bench, similar to the Miraidon deck. This deck is probably a more pure Area Zero because Terapagos not only is an activator, it's also our main attacker. I do like the 4/4 Noctowl line, and the 1/1 Pidgeot line has been working quite well for me. Bouffalant's really to reduce any damage spread that you might deal with on your side that's done by damage, like Radiant Greninja, or of course, you might be able to tank an attack or two from a Regidrago V-Star just because of that curly wall ability. I think this deck has a lot of tips and tricks and stuff like that. Like it's kind of a technical deck, right? When it comes down to it, because we have a lot of one-of cards, we have a lot of searching, so your resource management has to be quite good. But when this deck works, it is quite well positioned in our current format, getting pretty close to the middle of the list. This deck has some kind of weird like stigma against it or anything else like that. Like I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily respect Terapagos as much, because even last format, like it was one of the top performing decks in format and people still weren't really playing it. So it was really nice to see Henry Brand, our 2019 world champion, really take this deck far into Sacramento and kind of prove how successful it can be. Now we are about to be at the top 5 kind of at our decks, so if you haven't put in your best guesses in the comments below, put those guesses. Don't look at the pinned comment yet, because otherwise that will be a little bit more telling, but we'll have to see exactly how our top 5 shapes up. I'm really excited about it, so let's jump into it. Jumping into our number 5 pick is Gardevoir EX with that Psychic Embrace ability. Now, Gardevoir EX has largely been a top performing deck since basically it came out in Scarlet and Violet. We saw it kind of nearly race off, get those top finishes at the North American International Championships that year, the next year, and here we are basically coming up on 2 years of Gardevoir EX's success, and it is back with a new version. Now we saw, I believe, Nathan Boyle play this deck to a top 4 at Stuttgart, and I've never really heard of Nathan before, but from what I understand and what I've read through kind of the social media, X or Twitter, is that they are a student of Tord Reklev. So absolutely great job on Tord. As a coach myself, it's great to see when your students see success. And Tord's like, yep, I came up with this Call Bell Precious Trolley engine, gave it to my coaching student, and they made top 4 at a regionals. So I went with this version, using Call Bell, going second, searching your deck out for that Arvin, using Precious Trolley, getting that large setup, and going Technical Machine Evolution turn 1. Really cool take on the deck, because we've seen other versions that play Secret Box. We've seen other versions that play Unfair Stamp. I think Precious Trolley is really one of those cards that as people start kind of realizing how powerful it can be, really getting out those fantastic starts is really going to allow this deck to get to that Psychic Embrace, powering up your Pokemon like Screamtail, Drifloon, Fluttermane, and really kind of pushing the envelope of what this Gardevoir EX deck can do. I think we're probably going to see a little bit more of it as it goes forward, because it seems well positioned into some of the top decks in the top 4. We'll get into that in a little bit, but right now Gardevoir EX being a very, 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 very cool deck right now at number 5, and I think this Call Bell Precious Trolley Arvin engine needs to be discovered. So as we kind of uncover it, maybe with some other decks, we might see some more of that at the Perth and Bogota special events and regional championships this weekend. In an absolutely unreal turn of events, we somehow have Klawf as the top 4. So we see another use of Precious Trolley. Precious Trolley might be the most used ace spec this week in the top 10. So again, pick up those Precious Trolleys. I'm sure our friends at Kayfabe Cards will have them. And if you don't have them online, you can craft them with some code cards, getting some credits at ptcgeostore.com. Klawf is a fantastic deck choice right now. And don't even necessarily think of it as Klawf. Think of it as Poison Terapagos EX with a side of Crab. Being able to use Brute Bonnet's Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, cast poison on either yourself and or your opponent's Pokemon, depending on which Pokemon you have in the active, using cards such as Latias EX and Petrun to get in and out of the active spots, and of course using Radiant Hisuian Sneasler to increase your damage output of poison from 1 poison counter to 3 poison counters. You could even use that Petrun promo to go from 3 poison counters to 8 poison counters, and you can go turn 1 knockout a Charmander, a Dreepy, and anything. Really where we have the damage output increase is using Binding Mochi, and then using Binding Mochi on a Terapagos or a Klawf, increasing our damage output by 40, self-poisoning ourselves, doing that plus 30 in between turns. So let's say we have an example of Terapagos, 8 on the bench, that's 240 damage, minus 20 from Double Turbo, 220, plus 40 from Binding Mochi, 260, plus poison damage, 270 damage, which is absolutely wild. So we have a lot of really cool ways that we can, or sorry, 290, 260 plus 30 is 290. So you can go getting around your opponent's Pheasantipity EX is kind of going to be the name of the game, because you can choose the right amount of damage with or without Binding Mochi to increase your damage output, and then get to that point where you're knocking your opponent out in between turns with poison damage. A lot of really unique cards here. Like, I don't know if everyone has an Oranguru V on hand. I don't know if everyone has a Radiant Hisuian Sneasler on hand. And you might have missed the Petrant promo if you didn't buy an ETB, or if you didn't buy a 3-pack blister or anything else like that. So some really interesting cards here when it comes to this deck, and I really like how it's kind of an army of misfit Pokemon, including that Hisuian Electrode V promo or full art, depending on where you got it from the set. So I think this deck is the real deal. I have covered some gameplay on our channel already, whether it's a tabletop video, or I'm also planning on covering some PTCG Live deck profile videos again, so be sure to check that out. But right now, I think Klawf is just a really interesting deck in format, so we'll have to see how it continuously plays out. Check it out. It's the real deal. We're about to enter into our top 3. Maybe there's going to be more real deals, maybe there's not, but we'll have to find out. Right now, Klawf is it. Let's see what we got going on at number 3. At number 3, we have another really cool deck here. We have a Gholdengo EX with that new Energy Surge Pro, allowing you to play Metal, Grass, Fire, Water, Lightning, Psychic, Fighting, and Darkness energies in the deck, allowing you to search one of each. So a lot of the times you're going to be searching for 5 or 6 plus energies, and you're able to rip those with that Make It Rain attack. Now, we have seen builds of this deck that don't include Togekiss, and we have seen builds that include Togekiss. Now, your other option is to basically go 3 metal energies, 3 water energies, and the rest of all the other energies, and go for a 1/1 Palkia VSTAR line, as we've seen in other decks, like Palkia, like literally Pokédex, Ceruledge decks, anything else that might have included it before. I do like the Wonder Kiss ability, being able to potentially draw some extra prize cards. That's just me. You could go with the top 4 list that the cameraman played to top 4 at Stuttgart Regionals. New Gimmighoul as well, so evolving from a minor errand running, being able to search up some of those energies. Seems like we're able to just go Make It Rain, let these energies unfold onto our opponents, and we're able to go Cryptomaniac, put 2 cards on top of our deck, coin bonus to whatever 2 cards we want. So that could easily be an Energy Search Pro and another Buddy Poffin to get out some more Gimmighouls. This deck seems to have the stability of what it was always looking for. That Energy Search Pro kind of puts it over the edge, and it's basically an A-spec built directly for this deck. And is it ever fun to rip out all those energies from your hand of different colors? I mean, maybe you have one of each cool gold energy or cool energy that you picked. I know that a lot of people have been taking those Call of Legends energy promo packs from like 10 plus years ago and breaking out those energies for a deck like this. So you could always have those fun things, whether you're getting them from prize packs, the UPC Terapagos box, anything else like that. Really fun to rip those cool energies there. This deck, it seems to have everything going for it right now. Like I said, seems to have some really good matchups, because one of the things that it has over every deck is it has to evolve, which is typically a disadvantage. But since it has to evolve, you have no 2 prize card Pokemon in your play turn 1, your opponent goes knockout Gimmighoul, you evolve another Gimmighoul, Gholdengo, you take the first 2 prize card punch. And if you have Togekiss, you might be able to even catch up in prize cards, even if your opponent gets ahead. So that's why I really like the Togekiss in this deck. So Gholdengo is quite high right now. Might not necessarily be this high next week, especially as decks like Klawf really go from 0 all the way to number 4. But Gholdengo, absolutely a great time to play it, especially with the new Gholdengo EX, same art, new art, same card, coming out in Prismatic Evolutions in January. So we're about to enter into our number 2 deck. Which deck do we have runner up this week? We'll have to find out here. Remember, smash that like button, double check to see if you've subscribed. If you've already subscribed, tell a friend to subscribe. Let's get this channel to 25K subs. Let's jump into that number 2. Jumping into number 2 is Charizard EX. Like at the previous regionals at Sacramento, where we saw double Miraidon in the finals, at Stuttgart we saw double Charizard in the finals. Our friend of the channel, Sharni, was able to win the regional championship, so major congratulations to them. With a very similar list to this, I think we might only be like 1 or 2 cards off, whereas I don't play a second Duskull, and I don't believe that they play a canceling Cologne. I do like canceling Cologne in the deck, so I had to make a cut somewhere. That's where I made the cut for Duskull, because it can always Thornton it back. This deck is so powerful because Charizard EX scales as a game progresses. Looking at its Burning Darkness attack, that is, to go into further, 180 plus 30 for each prize card your opponent's taken. So even if you've had a little bit of a slower start, you can maybe just OHKO, one-hit knockout your opponent's active Pokemon with that Burning Darkness. There's also Infernal Rain. It self-accelerates energy. And have you looked at that HP? It is at 330 HP, which is absolutely massive for a Pokemon that you could have a Charmander out, Rare Candy, and go into Charizard EX. Absolutely an interesting deck when it comes down to it, being able to use Pidgeot. Pidgeot can search out a card that you need every single turn, whether that's Boss's Orders, whether that's Sword to transform something else into, and of course you have Dusknoir that can force you into your opponent taking prize cards so they can increase your damage of Burning Darkness. You get that damage from Curse Blast, and of course you can activate your own Briar to draw an additional prize card if you knock out your opponent's Pokemon with a Terra Pokemon. And yep, Charizard EX is also a Terra Pokemon. Decks like this have been defined over the past couple of years, where Charizard EX has absolutely been fantastic. So we'll have to see how Charizard EX continuously goes. But in a world where there's decks like Miraidon, Raging Bull, Gouging Fire, Roaring Moon, Charizard EX's HP is just too much for them to handle, because they are capping around 250-ish damage. You're able to just go knockout, 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 2-2-2, really easy. And that's not even including Dusknoir plays or Briar plays or anything else that you have up your sleeves. When a deck gets this refined, it's no wonder why it's all the way up at number 2. But it's not our number 1 pick of the week. So we do have our number 1 deck somewhere. We haven't featured it yet, so I'm sure a lot of you might have guessed it. It might not be your favorite deck, but it is the current best deck in format, regardless if it's won the last regionals or not. In terms of all the matchups, in terms of all of the success that it's seen, we had to put a deck at number 1. If you haven't guessed it, now's your last time to get those guesses in. I mean, feel free to comment at any time. Like I said, it does boost the YouTube algorithm. But this is our number 1 Pokemon TCG meta deck of the week, and it is Regidrago VSTAR, the number 1 deck of the week. Now, Regidrago VSTAR, like a lot of the other decks, the Charizard and Miraidon specifically, was double finals at the Latin American International Championships. Even though that wasn't the Surging Sparks format, it continued on into our Sacramento regionals, making waves in the top cut. Wasn't so featured at Stuttgart regionals. It seemed like a lot of other top players kind of switched from the regular Drago that they might have been playing over to Klawf Terapagos for some reason or another. Now, Regidrago VSTAR might not necessarily be number 1, as it does have a tough match against that Klawf deck, but it is still a Regidrago VSTAR deck, and we have answers here when it comes to things like Temple of Sinnoh, Iono, where you can shut your opponent down out of nowhere. The new Alolan Executor, when it comes to this deck, allows you to pretty much always draw 2 prize cards when you're playing against a big basic deck, increasing your damage, your kind of, well, not damage output, you're just getting the knockout. It's really just what it increases your matchup a little bit, because whether there's a Raging Bolt in the active with a Bravery Charm at 290 HP and then 1 on the bench, no matter if you get heads or tails, you're going to be taking 2 prize cards. It also allows you to get through things such as Mimikyu, and it can also allow you to get through things such as Cornerstone Ogerpon EX. Also added in a Haxorus here, so having the variety of attackers, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 if we include Regidrago V. This deck has been well refined over the past few months, so if you haven't got a chance to try it out, it is a fantastic deck choice, and I think we might see some other changes. We have seen some players experiment with Noivern to maybe use its first or second attack into the metagame. We'll have to see if that changes as we look into Perth and Bogota special events, but we'll have to see exactly what's going on with the metagame. But right now, Regidrago V-STAR is on top, and I did note Raging Bolt is nowhere to be seen this week. When it comes down to, a lot of people might be like, hey Zach, did you miss a deck or anything else like that? Not here. So as Regidrago sees less of those turbo aggressive decks in the top 10, it does become a lot better because it loses one of its worst matchups, and Alolan Executor does help it against any of those control or wall stall decks. So you're not always going to have a perfect matchup spread, but you do have a lot of strength and the power of choosing between all those different Pokemon to copy with Apex Dragon out of your discard pile is absolutely unparalleled when it comes to any other deck. Pokemon have 1 or 2 attacks printed on them. Regidrago has 7, 8, 9, 10 attacks printed on it when you factor in a full discard pile with Apex Dragon. That's what we got going on at number 1. Again, check out the pinned comment for all of these deck lists. You can copy and paste them right into PTCG Live, or you can also pick up any of these cards at kayfabecards.com, or you can go to ptcgostore.com and plug in our discount code to get some code cards that you can craft into credits. Really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Let me close things out. This week has seen a lot of change ups when it comes down to everything. So if you're kind of expecting things to change up a little bit more after Perth and Bogota as we enter into Toronto regionals, that's probably going to happen. So stay tuned for upcoming videos on the channel, whether it's tabletop gameplay, PTCG live gameplay, metagame update videos, and of course these top 10 weekly best meta deck updates. I hope that everyone's been having a fun time with Surging Sparks. I know that I have. I actually just registered for San Antonio, and I booked my travel for the European International Championships in February. So I'm very excited to kind of get my hands on some Pokemon, play, and kind of finish off my World Championship invite. Currently, I'm nearly 500 championship points at the time of making this video, so I'm hoping to get a few more with some major Pokemon events coming up really soon. If you're trying to up your game, I do offer a few ways that you can, whether it's going to be through coaching. You can hit me up for some coaching at metafy.gg/@ZachLassage. I also have my Metafy coaching group where I offer deck lists and stuff like that. I think it's only $10 a month. So if you want to get updates on all of these decks before everyone else, and it's not always just the top 10 decks, I usually cover about the top 20, 30, even 40 decks in format that I update fairly regularly. Be sure to check those out. As always, I appreciate everyone who's tuned into the video. Again, double check to see if you subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like and let us know in the comments what you think, which decks you think are gonna kind of pounce in, become the best decks. Other than that, I will catch up with all y'all for more great content over here at the Shuffle Squad. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.